Something I thought about and actually got the idea from a YouTuber who had like 10 or 20 different things that he likes about his automations. And this is something that can be done, I think, because when you think about it, your battery on your cell phone, it doesn't like to be plugged in 24 hours a day. Now, my wife and I, we have some phones that are very old or that are older, like our previous phones. And we still keep them around. It has some apps, been a little bit lazy at, um, you know, moving some stuff over. So we keep the old phones for whatever reason, but they stay on the charger 24 hours a day. So here's some ideas that I had some old Wi-Fi, excuse me, some old Wi-Fi switches laying around. And so I used local Tuya and because I converted all my plugs, my smart plugs to Zigbee. So I'm using Zigbee plugs and they work great. But I really wanted to do this right away. And when I was using the Wi-Fi plugs, I was using my internet provider's Wi-Fi service. And they combined the 2.4 with 5 gigahertz, which was a pain to work with. Now I'm not using that anymore. I bought a new router. It works great. I didn't buy the most expensive, but I didn't buy the cheapest either. I bought a really good 2.4 and 5 gigahertz router, and it works great. So now I'm thinking I could probably start plugging in some more Wi-Fi devices using Local Tuya. Now I'm not going to talk about how to set up Local Tuya. That I will try to find a good video for you so that you can learn how to set that up. And I think you guys will love it. So I have a few Wi-Fi devices. It's not that many, and I still kept those old, smart plugs. So I added two Antonio Moto, standing for Motorola charger cable, and also Serenity Motorola charger cable. And if I turn it on now, the battery starts charging. I'll turn it back off. Okay, so now let's look at something else. If you look at my devices, let me pull up mine. This is my phone. I have the Home Assistant app on the phone, and I went through the back end, the settings, permissions, and allowed all those permissions that are there. So this is how all that stuff is able to come up here. So looking at this sensor, the battery level is at 90%. Okay. Oh, if you notice, it was at a constant 100% pretty much forever. And it dropped down to 80 because I took it off. And I was able to test between 89% and 91%. When it went above 91, it turned off the charger. When it went above 89 or below 89, it turned on the charger. It worked and it worked great. So let's look at the automation I created, charging old phones. So let's expand all of this and let's look at the YAML code first. So the YAML code says if the numeric state sensor Motorola G7 Supra Antonio battery level, this is the attribute right here, and this is the device. And of course, it's a sensor. Using Antonio charge on ID, if it goes below 40%, it will trigger this particular ID. Now let's look at the visual. It's very easy. First of all, you create a trigger ID. It could be called phone charge on or whatever you want. but make sure that each of these are different. You choose the entity, so you search for the entity, okay? And when you search for the device, then you just have to type in a few, battery level, there it is, 40%, below 40%. So once it gets to 40 and then it goes to 39, it will turn on that charger. If for some reason the phone got disconnected and or maybe it wasn't connected to the power and I realized, oh my goodness, the phone's at 20%. Let me plug it back in. Or maybe the Wi-Fi got cut off. Whatever the case, if the sensor detects that the battery is below 40%, 39 and below, it will turn that, it will trigger this ID right here. The same thing with my wife's phone, below 40. Oh, and I didn't show you this one, but it's shown here as well. If my wife's phone is above 90, it will trigger that off. Too easy, right? So I'm just going to show you real quick. And in my description below, I'm going to put the actual code, the YAML code. Because then all you got to do is go to edit in YAML and paste it. And then you can search, by taking away my stuff. And you could probably choose like Apple, iPhone, or whatever the name of your device is. Okay. I'm not going to say that because I don't want to mess anything up. Now, here's what happens. If Antonio charge on is triggered, it will fire up this particular action in options. Turn on modal charger. Also, I'm going to monitor this for a few days. So I want to set notifications so that I can determine the time on the phone to say charger on. Eventually, I'm going to delete this because I know it will work automatically. When charger by Antonio charge off, it will turn off that charger and it will send a message saying charging off. The same thing with my wife's phone right here, charge on, turn on, and then turn off. So now, why do you want to do this? You don't want your battery plugged in 24 hours a day. It's not a good idea. What's a good idea is that you unplug it every once in a while. Now, the reason why you probably don't want to do this to your regular phone that you use on the daily, because naturally you're going to unplug it anyway at some point, even if it reaches 100% during the night. In my personal opinion, it's a good idea to charge it to 100. But if you look at any website, it's actually better to charge it to 90%. And I just thought about this. I did not research this before I started recording. So let me go ahead and pause this. Of course, in your reality, it's going to be instant. Pausing now. Okay, so I saw somewhere on different sites they have different information. I'm going to go with 80% at the top. So, and because I saw somewhere where it said 60, some people said 80, and this is what will allow your battery to last a little bit longer. So I'm going to go with a roundabout number and change it to 80%. Now, you don't want to take it to 100 because that will shorten the battery life of the battery life. And so this I would say just keep it between 40 and 80 and it should do just fine. And it should prolong the life of the battery. So I think that's great. That is great. So this is the animation or the automation that I created. Now, here's the thing though. I do have charging devices that are not smart. It's like this right here. It's just a regular drill. I bought it at Walmart. This is the exact drill that I have. Just a $30 drill. Okay. And this little battery disconnects and connects to that charger, like just like this. Okay. I didn't want this to be on the charger 24 hours a day. Lithium ions, they do hold memory. So, because this is not a smart battery or a smart charger, I'm not able to determine if the battery is fully charged or not. Now, there is another thought to that, and I'll come back to that. Currently, what I do is I have an automation that at 3 o'clock in the morning, it turns it on, delays it for 3 hours. So it turns it on, stays on for 3 hours, and then turns off again. At 1500 hours, which is 3 p.m., it does the same thing. So it charges for 6 hours a day at different intervals. I also have my razor clippers, and my razor for cutting my hair. Um, I got clippers, I got two of them. That does the same thing and it's on the same schedule. It just turns on for 3 hours, turns off again at 3 p.m. and 3 a.m. Also, if I turned on one of them, it will turn on the rest for 3 hours. I can, it's actually working so well for me, I could probably knock this down to two. Then I got to change the name. Mhm. Charging battery power devices. Okay, just give it a generic name. I can always change it to whatever I want later. Save, and then change that to that. Automation charging. Oh, so I kept the entitle ID or entity ID the same. Okay, it's not on any voice assistant. That's the way I wanted it. And update, and that should work out just fine. Okay, but here's another thought though. If you get one of those, I don't have any smart plugs that can read voltage. So I can imagine what you probably have to do if you do buy a smart plug that has voltage sensors on it and you employ it to your home assistant. What you can do is determine, have your whatever battery charge and see how much power is using. And then when it fully charges and it's no longer charging, come back to it and determine what the power is. And then when you set up your automations, you can easily, and let me go back, determine, not that one, by using the same formula. If the power level, okay, so think about, the power level at this time. If it if it's at, 3 watts or whatever it's using, you can, once it gets below 1 watt, like it's not using any power, it's probably zero point 0.5, whatever. You can put that in here, and then you can put that, at some point. Now, also, why not unplug it from the charger? Because it may be different. There may be something in there that when you remove the device from the charger, does it still draw power or maybe less power? So if you could probably have an automation that says something like um, something automatic. I mean that because if it's turned off, then it's not going to read anything. That is something to play with, actually. I'll be interested in knowing. But I think the main point is that when it's charging and once it stops charging, here's something you can do. I just thought about this. What you could do is if at some point it stops charging, and because it's not using as much power to charge the battery, it turns it off. Every single day at 3 o'clock, you can run an automation to check to see if the unit actually starts charging after, and I will put like a 5 minute delay on that. If it determines that it is charging, because maybe you used it at some point during the day, then it will leave it on until that power is no longer being drawn. So that's all I got to say about that. That is something that I definitely want to play with at some point. But for my phone, because it has a built-in sensor for battery level, that's really easy. This is a very easy automation. I'm going to show you the whole entire code. In fact, this whole entire code I'm going to on, put on my thing here so that you can see it. Now, also, it's a good idea to use because there's no special YAML code. You can literally set this up just using the GUI, unless you want to do something fancy. If you want to do something fancy, of course, you know, you're just trying to be fancy. All right, well, that's all I have for you today. Please like, subscribe, and love this, and comment below. And, just let me know what you think. My name is Antonio. We'll see if we come anything else. All right, peace.